as we got into the quarantine period and the beginning of the pandemic after our spring break, and then the social unrest and injustice that took place, seeing our players bond together, and really our athletic department. And so it's appropriate, that this game is dedicated to our Pack United platform that was formed by our student athletes and backed by our coaching staffs and administration to support the effort to fight social unrest and discrimination and prejudice, and doing so by using the 3 pillars of awareness, education, and action. And very proud of our athletic department, our student athletes, and Isaiah Moore and Grant Gibson for all of the work that has gone into that and continues to go into that. And so this game will have a lot of emphasis there for us as a football program, and look forward to that. In this game with Florida State, we talked a lot about them being a fast start team. They'd scored more points in the first quarter than they had in any other quarter. And so it was great to see us get out offensively in our first drive, have a 13-play drive, and overcame 3 penalties. Had 2 tough third downs, third and longs, and go down and score a touchdown. Defensively, the first drive, we're out there 3 and out and got the ball right back. And throughout the game, I thought we made a lot of adjustments. And that happens every game, but not every game do you have as many as we had in this one. And the ability of the coaches to communicate well with the players to take the communication, understand it, and go to the field and execute. There was a lot of things that happened in that game, particularly on defense. Basically played an entire game against unbalanced formations, which you usually might see 4 to 5 times in a game. We saw 50-plus plays of those formations, and there's a lot of things that defensively, you do differently knowing that going in. And so I thought Tony and his group did a nice job adjusting, holding them just to 3 points in the first 3 quarters. A lot of emphasis went into finishing, and finished the first half with an interception on defense by Tyler Baker-Williams, and then started fast in the third quarter with a stop and an offensive score. And then to see the offense, be able to run 5.5 minutes off the clock there in the final quarter and run the football the way they did, finish blocks, finishing with a field goal to extend the lead. Obviously like to prevent them from scoring in those drives in the fourth quarter. But overall, I was very excited just about how we played, the energy we played with. I thought we had really good focus and practice. From a positive standpoint on offense, we ran the ball really well when it counted in the fourth quarter. Obviously, we'd like to run it better in the first 3. We were extremely efficient on third down. I thought Bailey played an incredible game. It was 71% completion rate, had 4 touchdowns, 3 in the pass game, 1 in the run game. The wideouts and tight ends blocked well on the perimeter and gave us a chance on some perimeter screens and downfield runs. And our wide receivers continued to not only catch the ball well, but to make some plays with their feet after the catch. And saw Mecca do that, saw Thayer do that. I thought on the O-line, Icky and Joe graded out the highest they had all year. And that was a really good defensive line. That's a good group. They're big. Those 2 defensive ends are NFL players. And I thought Icky played really well. From a negative standpoint on offense, we had 2 4th and 1s, one that we got stopped on where we just didn't block the play the way that we wanted to. And the second one where we had a holding penalty that took a first down away, where we had to punt then on 4th and 6. So obviously on 4th and 1, those are attitude type plays, and you'd like to be able to convert there. We had 6 tackles for loss in our backfield, which created second longs, and we were able to overcome some of those. But, you don't want to have plays that create second longs and put you behind the chains. On defense, positively, I thought we played really hard. We adjusted well. We had 2 4th down stops. We had a takeaway. I thought Isaiah Moore played his best game since he started for us. It was great having Drake back. He was very physical on the edge. I thought Aleem had his second week where he just really, really excelled inside. He's playing hard. Him and CJ are playing well at the nose tackle position. It was good to see Daniel Joseph and Savion and Terrell make some plays at defensive end. There's some things that we got to continue to work on there. But I like the way they played. They were very aggressive. Negatives, we gave up 3 explosive plays for touchdowns, and then we've been really good on third down. We've been really good in our red zone defense, but we can't allow people to score, in those explosive manners. And one of them was a missed tackle where we had a guy right there on a 4th and short. We did force 2 fumbles that we didn't recover, so those are plays obviously we'd like to do better. And but overall, it was a really good night. I thought our special teams were good. They created over 40 yards in hidden field, hidden yardage for us, which obviously creates field position. I love how hard our kickoff team played. We had 2 tackles inside the 20. There was a lot of physical play. There's a lot of strain. There's a lot of guys beating blocks. I thought C.J. Hart really played well on that unit. Thayer had a big punt return, 23-yard return. We had 2 opportunities on our kickoff return that were one block away from being big, explosive runs, and so we need to improve there. Coming out of the game health-wise was pretty positive, and I hope that we have Tanner back this week. That's trending the positive. But as of now, we should have the same lineup that we had last week with Tanner being added to it. With that, we have a chance to play a top 20 team in Liberty this week, undefeated team, very good team, good staff, and a team that's playing obviously with a lot of confidence, has 2 ACC wins with beating Syracuse and Virginia Tech. Before I move on to them, just, I know we're limited in how many fans we can have, but I do want to thank the fans that were there and just let you know we can hear you. Even though it's a small crowd, there's times where your noise does matter, and our kids do feed off of that. And so just want to encourage you, if you are at our game, to cheer these kids on. You have no idea what these guys have been through, how hard it's been to not only play football this year, but to do the things we're doing to stay COVID-free with our football team. And they have worked really hard and earned every bit of crowd noise that we can get. And so would encourage you and ask you to do everything you can to help us when we're on the field and scream for those young men that are fighting for you. With Liberty, it's a team that has a very explosive offense. And when you look at them statistically, they're averaging 40 points a game, 490 yards a game. They're rushing the football 254 yards a game, and all of these are in the top 20 in statistics in college football. Their quarterback's the transfer from Auburn, Willis, and he is a really special player, 68% completion. He's got a strong arm, 15 touchdowns, only 1 interception, and he's averaging over 100 yards per game. They rotate 3 different running backs that are all different in style and productive. Well, stopping them and getting the ball back for our offense and offensively maximizing our possessions. On defense, they're a 4-2-5 defense, play a lot of cover 3 and cover 4, and they play hard. I think their 2 defensive ends, number 11 and number 10, are very productive. Number 11 in particular jumps off the tape. When you watch them, they play hard. They're where they're supposed to be. They don't do a ton of things, but they do them well. And we have to make plays. We've got to be explosive. We've got to be physical. We've got to take care of the football and maximize our possessions. And obviously this whole thing is going to be about being able to get Willis off track because nobody's been able to do that. Any questions?
All right. Jonas, start with you.
Coach, as always, thank you for taking time and speaking with us. I warned you ahead of time. This is kind of a long-winded question, so I apologize in advance. You kind of touched on the Liberty's playing with a lot of confidence, and they're a smaller school outside the Power 5, undefeated right now. You've been there coaching at a smaller school that got on a nice little run and got some national attention. I know you can't speak for Coach Freeze, but can you kind of take us inside the mindset of a smaller program that's getting some confidence, and right now at this point of the season they feel like they're world beaters?
Yeah, and Hugh's done a tremendous job there, and he'd done this before, you know, when he was the head coach at Arkansas State. So that locker room's full of guys that felt like they could have played at a higher level. Those kids will have a chip on their shoulder when they play a Power 5 team. They want to be noticed. They know that this is a chance to showcase not just their individual abilities, but how they can play as a football team against teams that have Power 5, you know, behind their name. And the confidence piece, you know, I know all of those guys when I was at Northern Illinois, they weren't afraid of anybody. You know, they were just excited to play the game. And I'm sure that's what we're going to get. We're going to get a team that believes, for one, because they haven't lost this year. And they're playing for a coach that knows how to win games. And so it's going to be a very confident group. It's going to be a group that wants to prove themselves and an opportunity for them to do it, you know, on a bigger stage. For us, you know, we have to acknowledge all those things that I just said. But at the end of the day, it's really going to be about how we play. And I think whether we're playing against a Power 5 team or not, we need to be better than we were last Saturday. And that's going to be our focus. Is just executing and each player on the team understanding what they have to do in their role so that collectively we can play better than we just did against Florida State.
And just as a follow-up, how dangerous of a combination is that when a team is playing with that confidence and playing with something to prove, like with a chip on their shoulder? Yeah,
no, I mean it's a good football team with good players. It has confidence. I mean, obviously that's what you want to have. And so it's a great opportunity for us to play a team like that, like I said, in the top 20 that's undefeated.
David Thompson.
Hey, Coach. Coach Free said today that, you know, you guys are, you know, for what he saw, the most talented team that, you know, he's going to face this year, at least in the regular season. And, you know, that you guys have the best chance of you know, giving them a loss before the regular season ends. Is there the extra excitement of getting to spoil a perfect season for them and also getting to do it in your house?
You know, I hadn't really thought about it like that. You know, for us, we're trying to finish, and we're in the fourth quarter of our season, coming off of a win, and obviously we'd like to finish winning all 3 of our games that are on our schedule, and this is just the next one. How it impacts their season really isn't the motivating piece of that for me. It's more about us being better. And I think that's the one thing you can see with our team, even though we didn't beat Miami, we've gotten better each week here coming out of our bye week. And I want to continue that trend. I want to be a better football team this week and then a better team the next week and peak out when we're supposed to peak out here. And hopefully that'll equal what it is. But, you know, I don't think using their team as a spoiler for their season really motivates me or our kids. It's more about us being better than we were last week.
Brett.
Dave, what is it that Willis does so well? And does he remind you of anybody you faced so far this season?
You know, I think Doeren King's probably a good comparison. He throws the ball really well. He has a super strong arm. I mean, his downfield throws are really impressive. He throws the ball well on the run. I mean, to this point in the season, you're not going to see a lot of weakness with him. I mean, you look at his statistics. There's not many quarterbacks that have that completion rate and that touchdown to interception rate with those rushing yards, you know. I mean, he's done a tremendous job for them. And obviously the players are around him are a part of that. But there's a lot of things that happen on a play that he just makes happen on his own, which you saw from King. And his ability to throw the ball down the field accurately is really impressive.
Having seen King a couple of weeks ago, does that help you in any way know what to expect and to maybe prepare for Willis?
Well, we've seen several athletic quarterbacks, you know, and I think it comes down to tackling and getting off of blocks. You got to get multiple people to him. And some of the plays they're going to do, you know, they're going to motion the tailback out and get you into an empty type picture. And then he has the ability to throw it out or run it on a box count. And so we're going to have to be really good with getting people off of blocks and getting people back to him and then tackling them. I mean, that's the thing. You could have one or two guys there and he makes them both miss. And so it's not just the design of the defense. It's going to be the technique and the finish of plays that's going to matter and getting the ball out. You know, we need, like I said, one of the most critical pieces in this game is shortening how long they have the football. I mean, they do a really good job of controlling the clock offensively.
Thank you, Dave. Good luck this week.
Thank you.
Aaron Beard.
Hey, Dave. I don't know if this is quite a fair assessment of some other teams, but there are some teams in college football that have had a look like they're not all in on this right now. Things are going bad, and they don't look like they want to be there. Your guys, on the other hand, like you've talked about buy-in and their effort, how big of a challenge has that? I mean, I know COVID's made everything tricky, but has that been a bigger challenge in trying to keep them all the way invested all the way to the end on this, or have they been even more dialed in because of everything they're dealing with?
You know, I think what that did is it created a moment for your locker room and your coaching staff to either gel together or fall apart. I really do. I think all the things that happened in the offseason when they had to leave us for 4 months, I mean, that was a critical time where your team had to really hold themselves accountable or not. And our guys did that. They did a tremendous job of holding each other accountable and coming back ready. And the social unrest created an opportunity again, you know, for your team to come together or not. And our guys came together through the leadership of our football team. And it was very impressive to be a part of both things and to watch it. And I think that's carried us to where we are. This is a really close group of guys. It's a fun group of guys to coach. And it's been one of the most fun teams I've been around because of how much they truly care about each other. And they respect the game. They really like playing football. And so that has been, you know, a blessing that's come through all this stuff that's made 2020, as hard as it's been, a special year because of these guys.
Just to follow up, did you have worries about that what if they lose a game or two and things go south a little bit on the field and things are already so difficult off the field right now? Was there any more worry than you would have with a normal team about that?
You know, had I not seen how these guys came together, then yeah, it probably would have been a concern, but I didn't have that with our locker room. It was the opposite. I mean, they were giving me hope. They were showing me leadership. I mean, the things that these guys did, there hasn't been that. We've witnessed it, you know, at other places, and we've had conversations about, did you see what happened here or there? But there's never been an inkling of that on our roster. So, you know, hasn't been a big thing for us.
Thank you.
Bet.
Corey.
Hey, Dave. So through the 8 games so far for this offense, at this point, averaging over 33 points per game, I believe. Looking at the game notes here that Annabelle just sent out, the 33.5 points per game is currently 4th overall for program history. You're doing that now with, you know, starting Bailey Hockman for 5 games. The plan initially was to have Devin Leary. You've obviously lost several players along the way, as far as the offensive line. How impressed have you been with, you know, the ability to still be able to put up that amount of points, and how much of that has to be accredited to Tim Beck as well for changing the system at this point?
Well, I think Tim deserves a lot of credit. You know, I think, and so do the coaches with them. I mean, those guys work well together. I think, you know, I asked Tim to come in and break it apart and put it back together in his terms so that he could use his system and how he calls it. And he did that. And with losing how much of spring ball we lost and how unique fall camp was, to have a completely new vocabulary with these guys, to have new players that you're coaching and not have the opportunity to really kind of test it out the way you normally would in a spring and fall camp. I think he deserves a lot of credit for that. And then I think the players deserve a lot of credit for that. They bought in. They were excited about the change. They were really good learners, and they're making plays, you know, and that's the thing. I mean, you see a guy catch a 5-yard ball and turn it into an explosive. You see Bam the other night takes a run and turns it into an explosive touchdown. You see receivers making acrobatic catches and tight ends, and it's a group effort, you know, and I think it all starts with the leadership over there and the way that Tim has got those guys to buy in and the players wanting to be a really good offense. And so it's been fun to watch and be a part of, and it's just still evolving, and that's kind of the cool part of it. You know, it's each week he's tweaking it here and there.
And kind of a follow-up on that for Bailey, I know we've talked a lot about him over the last couple weeks, but what have you seen as far as the biggest transformation for him from last year to this year, in particular, his ability to run the offense and be able to pass the ball down the field as well?
Well, I think he has good timing right now. He's getting the ball out on time. He's putting it in accurate places. I think he knows what to look at and why. He has a really good grasp of what's going on. And like I said the other day, it's nice to have multiple games with him because you kind of get a feel for what he likes and you can build it around him. And so Tim and him have done a nice job communicating, and getting on the same page with what he likes to see and what's easier for him. And I think just being comfortable here too is part of it. Like I've said many times, your second year at a school is way different than your first as a transfer. I think, just your personal life and your routine and everything else. And he's earned the trust of everyone around him. Guys believe in him, and that means a lot at that position.
Thanks, Dave.
Yep.
Gibby.
Yeah, Dave, I know you guys aren't looking ahead, but you're close to being bowl eligible. And I know that's not the focus, but how important is going to a bowl for your program? I mean, you missed out last year, but for a program, just how important is it to get those extra reps for the young players and to get to a bowl game?
Well, the one thing that you can't do is give guys reps without practice. And so those practices they're so beneficial for younger players. And, basically you're going to take guys out and get them healthy that have gotten the lion's share of the reps for about a week. And all your developmental guys now are running your systems. And so now when you go into spring ball with those guys, they've got a lot of work in your system, and it makes spring ball different, because you're not having to teach them the same way you would if you don't go to a bowl game where they had no reps. And so it just kind of accelerates your teaching. And there's plays that happen in these practices where a guy all of a sudden makes a diving catch or a one-handed interception, and his confidence changes, and he starts believing in himself. And so those reps are critical in the development of a player. And so that's the piece that really means a lot, not just the reward of the bowl, but the developmental part and the confidence that's gained by the kids that have been servicing us a lot on the scout team.
If you'd gotten that chance to go last year, I mean, can you imagine where this team would be right now? Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah, I mean, it would have been very valuable for all these kids that are now sophomores that were playing as freshmen last year. At the same time, we were so injured last year. I'm not sure how many practices we would have been able to do, but you just can't replace experience. And I think that's the one thing in the sport that you appreciate, like when Tanner Engel steps on the field, we go from freshman to junior. And so there's a lot of game experience and practice experience that happens just with one player, and so whether it's 5 practices or 10 games or whatever it is, as a coach, I can't insert that into a guy. You have to rep it. And reps are the most important thing for these guys in their development.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
You bet.
Rob McClam.
Dave, my question is sort of an extension on what Aaron Beard asked. You mentioned how your team has handled 2020. You've had the election, the pandemic, and social issues. Do you think you have kids where their responses this is going to endure in their lives? They're going to continue to build on the progress and the way they've handled this?
Absolutely. I think, there's a lot of growth, personal growth. There was social growth. Obviously, there was so many different opportunities to respond to adversity this year, whether it was us losing a game or us having to change schedules, or are we going to play, not going to play, who are we going to play, the injuries and guys having to step into roles. There's been a ton of things that have happened and I think that's how you grow. I think adversity is the greatest way for somebody. It's when you're succeeding, you're not going to grow the same way as when you have to overcome something. And we've had many opportunities, whether they were self-inflicted or not, to grow up this year. And I think it will help us moving forward.
And add on to that, do you see these guys as being the type that would do things for the community, be active in voting, be active in those things, and not necessarily when it's in the limelight type of thing? Do you feel like they'll do it just because it's the right thing to do?
I would hope so. I can't answer that, Rob, for them. 100% of our team registered to vote. But, at the end of the day, that's going to be a personal choice. I would think that this year is going to instigate a lot of guys to continue to be active because, I think it's important to them. But, where that goes in their life, we all know that's their choice.
Jonas.
Coach, I wanted to ask you about Icky. You said he had one of his better games. Just a sophomore, he's already developed into one of the top linemen. Can you talk about his progression and his growth, and also kind of take us back to his recruiting process when you first saw him and realized that he's a guy you wanted in your program?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing you see with Icky, he's always been super physical. He's a finisher. He was a wrestler. He played O-line and D-line, very athletic, great student, incredible family. Checks every box when you talk about a recruit, every box. And we wanted him on film. Him and his dad came up on the visit and loved his makeup and what they were all about as a family. When I saw him play in person, it was one of the most impressive performances I've ever seen by a lineman. He played both ways the entire game. There was a play when he was on defense and they had an interception. He was on offense and their offense threw an interception and he went down the field and just drilled a guy. I don't know if I've ever seen a kid tackled that hard in my life. And I just like, man, this guy's going to play. And I came back and told the staff, I said, that guy will start here as a freshman on the offensive line. And they were all like, well, yeah, that's hard to do. And I said, I promise you he will. And then he did. And, not trying to say that I'm the greatest evaluator, but when you see something like that in person, it was impressive. His improvement's been in his technique more than anything. I think when you're as strong and as athletic as him, a lot of times you rely on that and your fundamentals at times can, not have to be great. And then you get up against a really good player and you can get exposed even when you're talented. And so he's worked really hard with Coach Garrison on just some little things, and I know John was proud of him. He graded out like 91% against one of the better defensive ends in the ACC. So that was a really good performance for him.
And I'm sure it helps that when you guys don't have to coach or teach that nastiness that he has and finishing those blocks, it probably just adds on to it.
Yeah, he's the instigator of the pancake world around here, he's the guy that sets the bar for knockdowns and pancakes, and the guys all compete for that, but I know our whole sideline gets juiced when he does that stuff in the game. They love watching him play. How many teams stand there and just can't wait to watch their tackle block somebody? It's something we look forward to. He's a really good football player. He plays with a demeanor that we embrace, and he's a great human being, and I think all those things make it fun to have a guy like that on your roster.
Nick Pierce.
Thanks, Coach. Nick Pierce from the Liberty Flame Sports Network. Coach Freeze mentioned this morning you guys, I think, have been on a golf outing or two together. What do you recall about that? Who had the better day, and where did you guys play?
Well, the fundraiser that Chick-fil-A and the Peach Bowl have in the spring, they didn't have it this year because of COVID, but to raise money for your charity of choice has been something that we've done every year. And twice we were matched up with Hugh. And he's a good golfer, really good player. And his partner was a really good player. He's got an awkward swing, I can tell you that, but he's a really good player. And they beat us both times when we played them in that tournament. But great guy, always enjoyed my time with Hugh and respect him a lot as a football coach. He's done a tremendous job everywhere he's been.
Does anyone have anything else for Coach? All right. Thank you, Coach. Thanks, everybody.
Y'all have a good one. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Annabelle.
Thank you.